For years, the motorcycle market felt unstoppable. Prices climbed, dealerships struggled to keep inventory, and riders paid whatever it took to get the bike they wanted. But the situation in 2026 is starting to look very different. Some motorcycles that once carried strong resale reputations are now sitting unsold, and dealers are quietly adjusting trade values behind the scenes. That shift matters to riders who care about both the ride and the value of the machine in their garage. Today, we are looking at motorcycles whose resale strength is fading, the reasons the market is changing, and which models riders should think carefully about before buying. Number 7. Triumph Rocket 3. Every generation of riders remembers a moment when manufacturers tried to prove something outrageous. Bigger engines, louder power claims, machines built almost like statements rather than tools. In the early years of American touring culture, excess often meant chrome, displacement, and the kind of torque that pushed a rider back into the seat. For a certain type of enthusiast, that spirit still carries appeal today. The idea of owning a motorcycle that stands apart from everything else on the road still triggers the same curiosity it did decades ago. Yet, the modern motorcycle market has changed in subtle ways that veteran riders recognize quickly. Machines that once looked unstoppable can suddenly feel oversized when conditions shift. Riders who spent years chasing the biggest engines eventually discover that the road itself rarely demands that level of excess. Long highway miles reward balance, comfort, and reliability far more than raw muscle. A motorcycle that exists mainly to dominate spec sheets sometimes struggles when real-world practicality becomes the deciding factor. The motorcycle placed here represents that exact tension. Few machines ever rolled out of a factory with such a bold mechanical identity. Its massive engine configuration turned heads immediately, and early reviewers spoke about torque the way muscle car drivers once described big block engines. The experience is undeniably impressive. Twist the throttle and the machine moves forward with authority that very few motorcycles can match. For riders who value sheer mechanical force, that sensation alone can justify the entire design philosophy. Still, seasoned riders often ask a different question after the excitement fades. They wonder how a machine like this fits into everyday riding life. Parking lot maneuvering feels heavier than expected. Insurance premiums rarely remain modest. Maintenance access becomes more complex as engine size increases. And when the novelty of enormous power begins to settle into routine ownership, many riders quietly begin considering whether the motorcycle truly matches their riding style. This is not a criticism of engineering. In fact, the machine remains one of the most technically impressive motorcycles ever offered to the public. Its build quality and mechanical ambition deserve genuine respect. But the market does not always reward ambition alone. Sometimes it rewards motorcycles that solve real riding problems rather than create dramatic mechanical statements. For veteran riders who remember the simpler machines of the 1980s and 1990s, that difference becomes clearer with time. Motorcycles once built for everyday durability often age gracefully in the resale market. Machines built around spectacle sometimes experience a different trajectory. The excitement that attracted buyers in the beginning gradually fades as practical considerations return. That shift does not make the motorcycle less impressive. It simply changes the type of rider most interested in owning one. The pool becomes smaller, more specialized, and more selective, with a massive 2,400 58 cubic centimeter engine producing 165 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque. It weighs 642 pounds wet, 30-inch seat, priced $23,500. A different story about identity and tradition begins unfolding with the motorcycle placed in the position above. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Sportster S. For decades, one name quietly carried the reputation of being the gateway into American motorcycle culture. Riders remember when that platform represented something honest and mechanical. It was the machine many riders bought when they wanted their first taste of a V-twin engine rumbling beneath them. In garages across the country, older riders still talk about the early versions with a certain respect, recalling simple engines that could be serviced with basic tools and patience. Time eventually reshapes every legend. manufacturers look for ways to modernize designs that have existed for generations. Sometimes that evolution strengthens a motorcycle's identity. Other times, it creates a moment of confusion where riders begin asking whether the soul of the machine remains the same. The motorcycle placed here represents one of those moments where tradition and modernization collided in a way that left many veteran riders uncertain. The redesign arrived with bold intentions. Engineers pursued more horsepower, more aggressive performance, and a styling direction that separated the motorcycle from the cruisers that came before it. On paper, those goals made sense. Motorcycle companies face constant pressure to appeal to younger riders who expect modern technology and sharper performance numbers. The challenge appears when the very riders who carried the legacy begin to feel that something familiar has disappeared. Longtime riders often measure motorcycles differently than spec sheets do. They notice how a machine feels after 100 miles on the highway. They think about the comfort of the seat after an afternoon ride. They consider whether the engine character still feels connected to the traditions that built the brand. When those questions remain unanswered, enthusiasm can cool quickly. Another element complicates the situation further. The motorcycle market shifted dramatically during the last few years. Prices climbed rapidly during the boom period when supply shortages pushed demand upward. Riders who might normally upgrade every few seasons suddenly found themselves hesitating. When economic conditions tighten, motorcycles with higher price tags face a tougher path to long-term value. The motorcycle positioned here sits exactly at that intersection between heritage and reinvention. It carries a famous name that once defined accessible American motorcycling. At the same time, it introduces a modern direction that not every traditional rider immediately embraced. The result is a machine that impresses some riders deeply while leaving others unsure about where it truly belongs. None of this means the motorcycle lacks capability. In fact, many riders appreciate its stronger acceleration and updated engineering. Yet, reputation in the motorcycle world depends heavily on emotional connection. When that connection becomes uncertain, the resale market tends to reflect that hesitation over time. For riders who have spent decades around motorcycles, this pattern feels familiar. Models that redefine their identity often take years before the market fully understands them. Some eventually become respected for their innovation. Others remain caught between generations of riders who never completely agree about what the machine was meant to represent. Powered by a 1,252 cubic centimeter engine generating 121 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque, this motorcycle weighs 502 pounds wet. Seat height, 30.1 inches. Price, $15,999. A different challenge surrounding luxury touring motorcycles emerges with the machine occupying the following position. If you're finding this breakdown useful, take a second to like the video and subscribe to Motorcycle Heads for more honest motorcycle insights. Riders across the country are sharing their experiences in the comments, and your perspective could help other riders avoid costly mistakes. Number 5. Honda Goldwing Tour. Long before navigation screens and electronic riding modes entered the conversation, long-distance riders judged a motorcycle by a simpler measure. They asked one question: could the machine carry a rider across several states without fatigue, without drama, and without mechanical worry waiting around the corner? For decades, a certain touring machine answered that question better than almost anything else on two wheels. Many veteran riders remember seeing one glide past on the interstate late at night, headlights cutting through miles of empty highway. The sound was not loud or aggressive. Instead, it carried a calm, mechanical rhythm that suggested endurance rather than spectacle. That reputation did not appear overnight. It grew through years of cross-country trips, iron butt rides, and riders who trusted the platform enough to chase horizons that lasted thousands of miles. Touring motorcycles have always occupied a unique corner of motorcycling culture. They are not bought for weekend showmanship. They are bought for commitment. Riders who choose machines like this usually intend to spend serious time in the saddle. Comfort matters. Wind protection matters. Reliability matters even more. A touring motorcycle becomes less like a toy and more like a partner for the road. Yet, the modern motorcycle market has shifted in subtle ways that even loyal touring riders cannot ignore. Prices climbed steadily during the last decade as technology and luxury features became standard equipment, electronic suspension systems, larger display screens, and complex rider aids all raised the engineering bar. Those improvements created an extraordinary machine, but they also pushed the price into territory where many riders pause before signing paperwork. That hesitation becomes stronger when economic conditions tighten. Riders who once upgraded their touring motorcycles every few years begin holding on to the machines already in their garages. A well-maintained touring motorcycle from several years ago can still cover enormous distances comfortably. When buyers recognize that reality, the demand for brand new touring machines begins to slow. Experienced riders understand that motorcycles built for long-distance riding rarely lose their reputation for durability. What changes instead is the rhythm of the market. Fewer buyers step forward immediately. Inventory sits slightly longer in dealership showrooms. Over time, that shift gradually influences resale values as supply begins to outpace demand. None of this reduces the respect riders hold for this machine. In fact, many touring veterans still consider it one of the most dependable motorcycles ever engineered. Riders who value smooth engines, stable highway manners, and long-distance comfort continue to praise the design, but reputation alone cannot fully shield a motorcycle from broader market forces. Motorcycles built for serious touring often follow a slower economic cycle than smaller machines. Riders tend to keep them longer, which means fewer trade-ins during uncertain financial periods. As that cycle unfolds, the market begins adjusting quietly rather than dramatically. A touring engine measuring 1,833 cubic centimeters delivers 126 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque. Wet weight 833 pounds. Seat height 29.3 inches. Price $28,700. A different story about expectations and reality begins unfolding, with the motorcycle placed further ahead in the ranking. Before we move on, take a look at the description for the gear and accessories linked below. If values are shifting this fast, it makes even more sense to spend wisely on what truly adds value to your ride. Number 4. Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports. For many riders who grew up watching the rise of desert rally legends, the idea of a motorcycle capable of crossing continents always carried a certain romance. Images of riders carving through remote landscapes, dust trailing behind them for miles, created a powerful picture of freedom. The promise was simple. One motorcycle could carry you across highways, gravel roads, and distant mountain passes without hesitation. That vision helped create one of the most respected adventure motorcycles ever built. Riders admired the machine for its rugged character and the feeling that it could handle terrain far beyond the reach of ordinary road bikes. The reputation grew through stories of long expeditions and riders who trusted the design to carry them into places where pavement simply disappeared. Yet reality on American roads often tells a different story. Most riders spend the majority of their miles on pavement, commuting, touring, or cruising highways between small towns. When a motorcycle designed for extreme terrain becomes part of everyday riding life, the differences in purpose begin to reveal themselves slowly. Seat height becomes one of the first things riders notice. Tall adventure motorcycles demand longer inseams and greater balance when maneuvering at slow speeds. For riders who prefer low, confident footing at a stoplight or parking lot, that height can create hesitation. Comfort also changes depending on how the motorcycle is used. Suspension designed for off-road capability sometimes feels softer or less planted during long highway stretches. Another factor appears when riders consider complexity. Adventure machines built in the modern era often carry advanced electronics and multiple riding modes. While these technologies improve performance in many situations, experienced riders sometimes prefer mechanical simplicity. The more systems a motorcycle carries, the more potential points of maintenance appear over the years. None of this diminishes the engineering behind an adventure motorcycle of this caliber. The design still reflects remarkable versatility and the ability to handle terrain that many motorcycles would never attempt. Riders who genuinely travel across mixed terrain continue to appreciate the machine's capabilities. However, the number of riders who truly need that level of versatility remains relatively small. As the motorcycle market adjusts after years of elevated demand, that reality becomes more visible. Riders who originally purchased adventure motorcycles for the promise of exploration sometimes transition back to machines designed primarily for road comfort. When enough owners begin making that shift, the resale market starts reflecting a slower demand curve. Dealership inventories quietly tell the same story. Adventure motorcycles remain respected, but they are not always the first choice for riders focused on long highway days and familiar routes. The market gradually sorts out which machines match everyday riding habits most closely. Adventure power comes from a 1,084 cubic centimeter engine, producing 101 horsepower and 75 pound-feet torque. Wet weight, 535 pounds. Adjustable seat, 33.5 to 34.3 inches. A completely different challenge begins emerging with the high-performance machine appearing further ahead in the ranking. Number 3. Ducati Panigale. There is a certain kind of motorcycle that exists purely to prove what engineering can achieve when limits are ignored. Machines like that are not built for daily commuting or relaxed weekend cruising. They are built to chase perfection in speed, balance, and control. Riders who have spent decades around motorcycles understand the appeal immediately. Even if they never intend to ride one hard, they respect the craftsmanship behind a machine designed to dominate a racetrack. For many enthusiasts, that respect begins the moment they hear the engine come alive. The sound carries a sharp mechanical urgency that feels completely different from the relaxed rhythm of a cruiser. It is the voice of a motorcycle designed with competition in mind. Engineers build these machines with one clear priority: performance above everything else. Yet the same focus that makes a superbike extraordinary also limits its place in the real world. Riders who have spent years covering long highway miles often recognize that extreme performance comes with trade-offs. Aggressive riding positions place more weight on wrists and shoulders. Engines tuned for high output generate heat and demand careful maintenance. Insurance. Companies also view high-performance motorcycles differently, and that reality often appears on the first annual premium. Veteran riders tend to measure motorcycles by how they fit into everyday riding life. A machine designed primarily for racetrack intensity can feel out of place during a relaxed ride across state lines. That contrast does not diminish the engineering achievement. Instead, it reveals the difference between motorcycles built for competition and those built for long-term ownership. Comfort. During years when the motorcycle market expands rapidly, machines like this often attract enthusiastic buyers. Riders chase the excitement of owning something extraordinary. Performance figures become part of the appeal, and the idea of possessing one of the fastest motorcycles available carries its own satisfaction. When economic conditions tighten, however, buyers begin thinking more carefully about practicality. At that moment, the market begins shifting toward motorcycles that offer balance instead of extremes. Riders look for machines capable of carrying luggage, maintaining comfort over distance, and remaining simple to service. Superbikes rarely aim to fulfill those roles. Their mission remains pure speed and precision, which means their audience naturally stays smaller. As the market adjusts after years of heightened demand, that difference becomes visible. Machines built for specialized performance often experience changes in resale demand first. Enthusiasts still admire them deeply, but fewer buyers step forward immediately. The motorcycles themselves remain extraordinary pieces of engineering, yet the ownership pool narrows. Riders who have followed motorcycle history recognize this cycle repeating through generations of performance machines. Superbikes rise, dominate conversations, and eventually settle into a more specialized corner of the market once the excitement surrounding them stabilizes. Extreme performance arrives through a 1100 3 cubic centimeter engine producing 214 horsepower and 91 pound-feet torque. Wet weight, 443 pounds. Seat height, 32.9 inches. A different kind of story about heritage and American highway culture emerges with the motorcycle appearing further ahead in the ranking. If you respect straight motorcycle talk without marketing spin, consider subscribing to Motorcycle Heads. Every week we break down the machines, the market shifts, and the decisions that matter most to riders who care about real value. Number 2, Harley-Davidson Road Glide Special. Few shapes on the American highway are recognized as quickly as a wide front fairing, cutting through the wind. Long before riders even see the rider sitting behind the bars, that silhouette announces itself from a distance. Veteran touring riders know the look immediately because it represents thousands of miles of open road, long summer rides, and machines built with the soul purpose of crossing serious distance. Motorcycles built for highway touring occupy a special place in American riding culture. They are not simply purchased for short rides or weekend coffee stops. These machines represent commitment. Riders who choose them expect comfort, stability, and a feeling that the motorcycle could carry them across several states without complaint. Over decades, this particular touring design earned a reputation for exactly that kind of dependable, long-distance character. Many riders who have spent years covering serious mileage speak about this motorcycle with familiarity rather than excitement. It becomes part of their rhythm on the road. Wind protection allows long hours in the saddle. Saddlebags carry the gear needed for extended travel. The engine delivers steady torque that feels calm and confident rather than aggressive. For riders who value endurance, those qualities matter more than dramatic horsepower figures. Yet even motorcycles with deep cultural roots cannot escape the broader forces shaping the modern motorcycle market. During years when demand surged and supply tightened, touring motorcycles like this one commanded strong attention from buyers. Riders were willing to pay higher prices simply to secure a machine before inventory disappeared. Dealerships often struggled to keep popular touring models on the showroom floor. That environment began changing as the market settled again. Financing costs rose across the industry, and buyers who once upgraded frequently began keeping the motorcycles already parked in their garages. Touring riders in particular tend to maintain their machines carefully, often riding the same motorcycle for many years before considering a replacement. When experienced riders hold on to their touring motorcycles longer, fewer trade-ins circulate through the dealership network. Number 1. Indian Challenger Limited. Highway legends are not built overnight. They earn their reputation mile after mile, year after year, with riders who trust them to carry everything they need across open country. Touring motorcycles sit at the very top of that tradition. When riders commit to a full-dress touring machine, they are choosing comfort, power, and the promise that the road can stretch as far as they are willing to follow it. For many experienced riders, touring motorcycles represent the final stage of their riding life. The fast sport machines of youth eventually give way to something built for distance. Wind protection matters more than top speed. Stability matters more than sharp cornering. A good touring motorcycle becomes something like a trusted travel companion, quietly doing its job while miles of highway roll past beneath the wheels. In recent years, however, the touring market has entered a new kind of competition. Manufacturers began pushing harder into the category, with machines designed to challenge the traditional leaders. The idea was straightforward: build a touring motorcycle powerful enough to rival established names while introducing modern engineering and fresh styling. On paper, that strategy looked promising. The machine placed here represents one of the most ambitious attempts to reshape the heavyweight touring conversation. It arrived with strong performance numbers and a liquid-cooled engine designed to compete directly with the most established American touring motorcycles. Riders who appreciate modern engineering often admire the approach. The engine produces smooth, controlled power that feels confident at highway speeds. Yet touring motorcycles live or die by something deeper than horsepower figures. Veteran riders who spend long hours in the saddle often judge machines based on subtle details. Seat comfort becomes critical after 200 miles. Wind management matters when crossing wide open plains. Even the character of the engine plays a role in whether riders feel connected to the machine during long journeys. If you found this breakdown helpful, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more honest motorcycle insights, and share your thoughts in the comments so other riders can learn from your experience.